Hi, Sheila with Creative Aging again. Today we're going to do some watercolor and ink paintings. And so you'll just need your set of watercolor paints. You're going to need an extra fine point, ultra fine point Sharpie. This is what the tip looks like. So works more like an ink pen, so make sure you do not use the thicker Sharpie because it's going to change the look of this. And then you'll need pencil, paper, and whatever kind of paintbrush you want to use today. I'd bring a few out just so you can test them out, and this is always a good way to learn what brushes you like and different ways to use them. So if you only have a couple brushes, you can use just a point brush. But if you have more than that, try them all out today. And then, of course, your cup of water and a paper towel. And so here are a few examples of what we're doing. So we're gonna do a sunset, which we've done before. And so I'll just do a quick refresher of how to do a sunset in watercolor paint. And so you can do it a few different ways. Like each one of these, you can tell the sky's different. And that's just by how I used the water and how I used the paintbrush. And the movement of how I use the paintbrush. And so as you can see, we're gonna do a silhouette on top of the painting at the end when it's dry. And you can do, whatever you want. These two are palm trees. Everyone likes palm trees. Especially since it's kind of warming up outside. Or you can kind of do a city scene with an electric light or electric line, sorry. Kind of different. Here's another one. And then here's another palm tree. This is just a different angle. So this is super close up, kind of from the side. So you can play with the composition today and really kind of make it, what you'd like hanging in your house. All right, so I've already started one, because I really want to focus more on the ink at the end. So I really just want to show you, how to make the sky, what you'd like. So this is just using your paintbrush a different way. So as you can see on these two, notice how much movement there is in the sky. And that's just tapping the brush around with the paint. This is more a real smooth side to side. So I kind of started it here. I'll go ahead and continue. So I'll take my bigger point brush. I'm gonna move these where you can kind of maybe see them in the frame, maybe. Actually, no, I won't. You'll have pictures, so we'll go back to the other images. Pretty much just figure out what colors you'd like in your sky. And so I like to start by putting a lot of water in the paint just to get it ready, because you do want a lot of water with this. And so say I'm gonna use more blue here. If you wanna give it some movement, you can just tap your paintbrush around. And you can play with that. If you want there to be more clouds, you can kind of move the brush to where it's forming clouds as you go. And of course, switch colors, so I'll use the lighter blue here. So it's kind of just playing with water, playing with colors, and playing with your brush and figuring out how you want to use it. It's actually really relaxing and fun. I think, doing sunsets are definitely the easier thing in watercolor. The only way you can mess it up is if you use the wrong colors and they don't blend well, and then you get a brown sky. So just be very mindful of your color blending choices and what colors go well together. Because if I switch right now and I did, something, I'm trying to think what would go horribly with my purple. If I started using my orange right here and then I blended it directly into the purple, it's not going to be a pretty color. So I'll just do orange. just to show you. So if I did want more orange, take your orange and just don't let it, keep it separate. Don't get it in the purple, just go around it. Okay, and then, you know, pink and orange go well together, and pink and purple go well together. So if I wanted a good color in between both of those, I could do pink. So I'll do pink into the purple and pink into the orange, and those aren't bad. So just keep the colors separate. Like, you know, blue and yellow make green. So, you know, if you have, like, let me find one that has a good example. So this one, you can actually see a little bit of green in it, which wasn't my fault. I used this in a class and somebody splattered, they started painting on it. So it was not like this before. I tried to fix it, but you can tell they were continuing the yellow. That happens a lot when we teach. People take our examples and start painting on them by accident or, you know, but I tried to save it because I like this one. So that's the blue, that's the yellow. I kept it very, very separate, but if you mix it even a little bit, you're gonna get a hint of green in there. And speaking of, don't even look at this sad little watercolor set. You need to clean it before you start. I should have done that. I just took this one out of the bag, and I taught a class right before this, so somebody mixed those, and there's a good amount of green in my yellow already. So I'm gonna use that yellow. And say I wanna bring out more yellow here. And so I can kind of go more circular if I want it to blend more, right? Okay, so you get the idea of how I make kind of a movement in the sky, more of a cloudy sky. Let me show you how to do this look. And that's going to be, maybe use this brush instead. So instead of a point brush, and we'll just keep the same colors. I'm just gonna go over that. A lot of water. So go smooth back and forth. And that's gonna give you a really still sky with no clouds, no wind. And if I switch, like in this one, I switch to the red. Actually, I switched to the pink and then the red. But I'm gonna do the red because I'm gonna show you how to add the pink. So I'll switch to the red first. Let's do this red right here. Go down further and then move up and go up into your blue, okay? Just let it keep going. Go up into your blue, and there's gonna be like a stripe, right? Take some water. I want you to get rid of the stripe. Just blend it and go up and down until that blue and the red kind of looks softer. And if it doesn't look soft enough, then you can add pink if you'd like. So say I want more of a blended look. I'm gonna add some pink right in between. Do the same thing. Pink up and down, like drag it into the red, drag it into the blue. So I have more videos. We've done this before. I don't wanna do the exact same video we've already done. I just wanted to refresh you so you can kind of play with both. And if you want to use both techniques, you can. So let's, you know, if you just keep going. So you want to switch, maybe let's do an orange. So you want to add a little orange in there. Same thing, get rid of those stripes. And then if you want to switch and make the transition of like the smooth sky, maybe it's cloudy down here. You know, figure out a color that will work with all those. So let's do the pink again. And then I'm gonna move it around, right? I'm gonna bring some of my blue up, some of my pink up, and I'm just gonna kind of tap it around, and I'm gonna show you this a little up close so you can really see what I'm doing. So if you wanna incorporate both, you can. So you can have, and say you wanna even go up further. you know, feel free to play. You know, this is a scrap piece of paper I was gonna throw away, so I'm just trying to save my supplies. But if you have a scrap piece of paper, do it, play before you paint if you want. Or you can just kind of, most of this you can lift away with a paper towel if you see something you don't like, or you can keep adding water, and it's hard to mess these up really. The main thing is the color blending. Like, you don't want yellow and blue close to each other because you don't want a green sky. That's the number one thing that can go wrong here. So figure out your sky, how you want it to look, play with the colors. And if you want water down here, then you pretty much know how to do the water. So that's just going back and forth. You can see it's smooth. And then it's changing the way of the paintbrush. So here, I'll show you real quick. And this was in my watercolor demo too. The watercolor sunset demo. If you need a longer instruction on sunsets and water, please rewatch that. That's a lot more in depth. So, okay, so see, I've done the water, just smooth back and forth. Try not to get my arm in the video way. And then this is what I want to refresh you on. If you want to switch the orientation of the brush, you can kind of make it look like watermarks, like reflection. And if you add a different color in there, so I'll add some purple, you can even see it better. So back and forth. See how it's starting to look like water? And it's really easy. So it's just using the brush this way, then switching it and using it this way to where it's, the point is kind of hitting it to where it's drawing on it instead of painting the color. Okay, so that's how you kind of do the water if you want to do water. So now that I've showed you those, I want you to relook at the ones we've already done, and you can really see exactly the colors I used. So this was the blue, then I switched to the red. I added a little pink right there because I wanted a blend. I wanted it to be blended a little more. Then this is the yellow, and I brought the yellow up and down into the red and made a little bit of orange. Then I made a horizon line, and I did lots of the same colors, red and blues. A little hint of purple. And then for the sun, of course, I just used water and I blotted that out. So I just painted with water and blotted that out with paper towel. Let it dry. This one, lots of movement, lots of colors. So you can see what I did. I just moved it a lot more to really make it look cloudy and so up close. I used a lot of water on this one. Sorry about that. So see right there how light it is? I used a lot of water because I wanted it to look like there were clouds. This one, same thing. Blues, purples, pinks. Then this is where I kind of left this because the sun is setting. I want it to be lots of yellows and oranges and pinks. Think about a real sunset. Wherever the sun is, it's going to be more yellows, oranges, and then the rest of the sky might be darker on the edge, or wherever it's furthest from the sun, it's going to be darker. And so you can see what I used, and then I did the horizon line, and that water looks just like what we did. And I want you to notice, this is a different brand of paper. You can tell a big difference in how this responded to the water. See how it looks kind of drippy in spots? It did not hold the water very well, and so this was not a good paper. And it wasn't even cheaper, but the brand of paper really matters. So play with a few. It shouldn't do that. Like, it shouldn't look that drippy, and it shouldn't shed. Like this, immediately it started kind of shedding paper. And then we'll look at this one again. You can see that's a lot of purples and pinks up there, and a lot more like drastic color changing. So that's more paint, less water. And same down here. And so after you paint your sky, so here's one I did. So this one's dry, and that way I can just show you the pen process. So while this is drying, whatever you do, just set it aside once you get your sky and your water, or if it's just the sky. Once you get it exactly the way you like, set it to the side. Get a piece of paper, practice, because you cannot erase this ink. So you can start with a pencil if you're more comfortable, or you can go straight to the pen. And just, if you want to do a palm tree or, an electrical light, whatever you want, practice it before. So I'll just do palm tree, a real easy one. You don't want the black to be too much of the focus. So I don't recommend a huge trunk, because you're going to have to fill that in with the pen. So a smaller trunk. With these palms, you can just make it easy. Of course, there's really there's other ways to do this. I'm just showing you a very easy version. But I would recommend, if you're a little more advanced, look online and find a palm tree you love and to draw from that. That's going to be better. And if you're a beginner, then this one might be a good option for you. Let me get you a little closer. Okay, so see it off of each one of these lines, I'm just gonna, and I'm curving. You don't want all straight lines, so I'm just doing lines underneath, right? Now, you can do lines on top too, or you can decide on that later. So we can do the lines on the bottom. And think about which direction it's going. So it looks like it was leaning this way. So I wanted them to be exaggerated the way it's leaning. Same here, it's leaning this way. So I'm gonna draw these that way. And you don't want it to look like it lost all of its little palms. Isn't that what they're called, palms? I think so. So I'm filling it in quite a bit. If you do less lines, I'll show you. I'll do another one right here and just show you. This is what a lot of people do. They perfectly measure out and they do it too short and it just looks funny. And then it's, it doesn't look real if it's perfectly spaced apart. That's not how a tree is gonna look, right? So, definitely a lot longer, curved, maybe closer together. It's gonna look more realistic. Try to fix that. So if you want, you could leave it like that. If you wanted to add a couple that have the tops too, just go on the top. Now they might be shorter depending on the angle of what you're looking at. Some of them you might see both sides perfectly. And some of them might be leaning down so you wouldn't see the back side of it. So that might be okay. And then of course, fill this in. So that's kind of an easy way of doing the palm tree. Of course, practice that a few times. Really get it down and figure out how you like it, because then you're gonna draw right onto your painting, which people freak out a little bit, especially if you're attached to your sunset and you just love it. Then you have to put ink on it. It is a little intimidating, but it's good for you. It's good to be a little uncomfortable in art. And if you mess up, you just have to go with it. So if you do something with your ink pen that you don't like just like I did there, I just covered it up. So, just figure out how you can make it work for yourself. If you want to do the light fixtures, let me bring these back up. Take a look at a picture online if you want. And this is pretty simple, straightforward drawing. That's just, straight up line. And I colored it a few times to where it's like kind of two lines straight together. And then I didn't make them straight because, windy Oklahoma, they're not going to be perfectly straight. So if you want a ruler, you can go get a ruler, but you don't necessarily have to have one. So I just drew it right over there and then straight down. And I just looked at pictures online to find these. This one, after I drew it, I went back in and added yellow here. This is the only one that I painted on after the ink was drawn. So that's, you don't usually need to do that, but if you want a light there, then definitely add your yellow, brighten that up, see? Okay, let's draw, sorry. Here we go. And I'll do a palm tree since this is a water scene. And you can do one, figure out where you want it. You can do one, you can do two. This one, so let me show you one other thing. So I made this look like this was coming from, maybe say this is the beach right here. I made a little island on this one to give it something to come from. Depending on, you know, what it looks like. So I could do a little island over here, or I could just have it coming from this way. So say the beach is over here. You can have it coming from the side. That's gonna be up to you. I really want you to make it your own. So I'm gonna try it. I haven't actually done this before. So I'm just gonna make it come like it's coming out from like a beach area over there maybe. And I'll fill that in here in a little bit. So doing the same thing I just did, I'm gonna make it a simple one. Okay, let's look at that up close. Now let's fill this in. Make sure your painting is very dry before you draw on it. That is one thing I must remind everybody of. Very important. If you need to blow dry it with a hair dryer, that's fine too. But if there's a lot of water, that blow dryer is going to move the water and it might change the look of what you painted. So I would recommend just practice your drawing until it dries. You know, you can practice with pencil a couple times. That way you feel comfortable erasing, and then just go practice with pen a couple times so you'll be ready. And if you want, I do not recommend drawing this whole thing with pencil on your painting first, because you can't erase the pencil lines because it might take some of the paint. If you feel more comfortable, you can draw the trunk with the pencil just to get your position of it. But don't draw this with pencil. So if you wanted to, you could go pencil just for the placement, then switch to your pen. That's the only thing I allow in my classes when we do this project, because people try to draw it with pencil and then they regret it because you can't go over every single line with the pen perfectly. I mean, it's just, and it's more work, way more work. And of course, if you don't want to do a palm tree or light poles, then do a little sailboat. Do whatever you want. This is a silhouette. You can do anything you want. I mean, this is just to kind of incorporate an ink pen and just to play with how to mix different mediums into your watercolor paintings to make them a little more interesting. Maybe if you may or may not like this look. It's all learning, you know? So I'm filling it in a lot more than my example. I'm just gonna keep going. And this one, I'll put another row right here on that side. And I'll show you up close in a minute. So take your time on this. And you might need to, you know, if you have a few, you might darken up a few little areas. Like if you want it to be darker near the center of it. if you want to add a little point, so say you want one to kind of be out by itself, make it longer. And one good thing is, you know, if you ruin it, you just have to make another one. And these sunsets can go pretty fast. So you could definitely do that background again. I'll show you how it's looking. So I want you to see the difference. That one's got a lot more ink on it. That one's pretty bare. You figure out which one you like better. I mean, do you like more ink or do you like less and more simplified? That's up to you. So just keep taking pauses and looking at your work and figuring out what you like and don't like. Then keep working on it to fix it. Now what I don't want right here, see how there's a harsh line? I'm gonna add more black there to make it not look like, looks weird, okay? So I'm gonna add a little bit of darker right at the edge of the line. Okay, let's go ahead and fill this in and then we'll be able to look at it and see how it's looking better. So you can fill it in completely black if you wanted, or, you know, if you wanna do this, make this more drawn, I mean, you could play with it and see if you want lines, say you want it to be some lines instead of completely filled in. And then you could maybe do cross hatching, which is crisscross markings back and forth. If you don't like that, fill it in. And the watercolor, I mean the paper, kind of curls sometimes, so that's normal. Don't worry about it. I see mine's curling up as I'm drawing this. Whenever it gets wet, sometimes it curls. After this is all done, you can go put it under a book and flatten it back out. Leave it for a few hours. Okay. And if you like that, coming off that way, you know, if you want to draw another one, if you don't like that, then don't do that on yours. So if you don't like the look of that one, do it more like this, where it's got a little island. Or if you have your horizon line lower, then it would look fine to have it kind of go under the water. So let me show you up close how I did these. So take a look at that pen drawing. I definitely did both sides. So I did the line and then I drew palms on both sides. This one has a lot less black. And I positioned this one. I wanted one of the palm trees to go right over the sun. I really just wanted the sun to be glowing behind it. And then of course there's the little island. I put a little purple in there. And this is the one we just did. Okay, so go play, figure out the composition, what you want to do, what kind of scene visually attracts you more. And hopefully you enjoy it and learn something, and I will see you next time. Thanks. The lesson plan and photos of the images should be attached to the video on the Arts Council OKC website.